Shalom, come in the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Bahashim, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone and to the whole elect, pushing his word in truth and sincerity across the four corners of the earth. This lesson is going to be titled Righteous Suffering, right? Because in this ministry, in the truth, in the, the following of Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, you are supposed to suffer, right? It just comes with it. You can't escape suffering when you're in the truth. Even in the world, when you're in the world, you're suffering. It's a lower level of suffering, but you are still suffering in the world. Now, how much more when you're in the truth, when you actually know everything, what's going on? You're going to suffer, right? So we're going to start off with, actually already in the area, the vicinity. 1 Peter 3 and 14. And before we start, let's just go into the word suffer. Suffer, allowed to occur or continue, permit, tolerate, fail to prevent or suppress, also to be made to undergo, endure, be subjected to pain, death, punishment, judgment, grief. Perfect, right? So right there, when you suffer, you might be going through pain. Might be a physical thing. You might die, right? You suffered unto death, Suffer as a punishment, be punished for something you did. Judgment for something you did, grief because maybe someone died or, you lost your woman or whatever, and you're going through grief and that's suffering, right? Now, in this ministry, the truth, you want to suffer for righteous reasons, not for wicked reasons, right? Righteous reasons. 1 Peter 3 and 14. And if ye suffer for righteousness' sake, happy are ye. Right? Of course, if you're suffering for a righteous reason, right, you're going to be happy. You should be happy for it because Yahweh Shai suffered for righteous reasons. Okay? He suffered for the most ultimate righteous reason. And be not afraid of their terror, neither be troubled. So that's referring to, when people come against you, whether it's physically, verbally, whatever, right? Because you're doing the work of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, and Yahweh Shai suffered for righteous reasons by speaking the word of Yahweh, right? He was put in prison, he was beaten, he was lashed, not lashed, whipped. Yeah, he caught lashes, I should say, lashed. He was whipped. He died on the cross. He was crucified, right? Stoned. I'm just guessing, there's more things that probably happened that's not written in the book, but it was for righteous reasons, right? And he wasn't troubled because he understood that he's just doing the work of his Father, right? And that's because he fully subjected himself to Yahweh. That's why he was able to do that. That's why everything he did was perfect. It was perfect. It was perfect. It was just perfect, right? But he wasn't troubled. He understood what was going on, right? So when you're going through things, don't be troubled about it because you're suffering for righteous reasons. You should be happy because it's the same stuff that Yahweh Shai went through. Maybe not the same exact thing, but the suffering part he went through, right? So even if you get a taste of it, you should be happy. That means you are a part of the suffering of Yahweh Shai, right? But sanctify the Lord Yahweh in your hearts, right? In your minds. That's what it means, hearts. And be ready always to give an answer to every man that asks you a reason of the hope that is in you with meekness and fear. Yeah, so anytime someone asks you, why are you suffering yourself? Why are you suffering? Why are you doing this? Right? The answer should be quick. Because if you don't know why you're suffering, then you're not going to suffer. You're not going to want to stay and suffer. You're going to want to try and get out of that suffering, right? Which is not what you're supposed to do. Because who said you have the right to get out of it? Most High put you there for a reason, right? If anything, you should be praying to the Most High, Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, and ask him to give you answers for why you're suffering. So if you don't know, then you get the answer, right? And if you know why you're suffering, then you have an idea how long it might take, like how long you're gonna be suffering for, whether it's gonna be a permanent position, whether it's just brief, depending on the sin that you committed or why you're in that situation, that judgment that you're facing or that punishment, right? But you shouldn't try to get out of it, right? Because it's happening for a reason. Nothing's by accident, right? Having a good conscience that whereas they speak evil of you, right? Because people are going to basically talk shit about you as evildoers, they may be ashamed that falsely accuse your good conversation, Yahushai, right? Because they don't understand that you're doing the work of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. So they're falsely accusing you of these wicked things. Oh, he's doing this. He's following the scriptures. He's condemning people, da 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 da. But yet they don't know that this is the work of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, right? So you have to ignore that stuff because you're on a mission. Just like Yahushai was on a mission, you're on a mission. For it is better if the will of Yahweh be so that ye suffer for well-doing than for evil-doing, right? So it's better to suffer for well-doing, for doing the right thing, than for doing the wrong thing, right? So now we're going to go to Colossians 3:12. Colossians 3:12, put on therefore as the elect of Yahweh, holy and beloved, bowels of mercies, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, long suffering. Right? So I read that because like that's what an elect does. That's like if you want to think of King Arthur and his knight table, and they have the requirements of what to be a knight. This is the requirements of one of the requirements of to be one of the elect, right? You have to be kind. You have to have bowels of mercy. You have to be merciful. You have to have the humbleness of your mind, right? And humbleness of mind towards, it might be towards your parents. It might be towards, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. It might be your boss. Because the scriptures say, servants, subject yourself unto your masters, roughly paraphrasing, right? Long suffering. And it said long suffering lasts. Long suffering. You're supposed to suffer. Right? Even Job said, roughly paraphrasing to his wife, he said, are we to receive good without receiving evil? Right? So you expect to receive good, but not receive evil? And evil just means bad times. And suffering is a bad time. It's not fun. Right? No one wants to suffer. It's not about what you want. It's about what you have to do. Right? What you need to do. Right? So now we're going to go to 1 Peter. Just like it, 2:19. For this is thankworthy if a man for conscience toward Yahweh endure grief. So the Most High likes that. With good conscience, not bad conscience, good conscience, endure grief. Suffering wrongfully. So even when you're suffering for something, you didn't do, like maybe someone accused you of a crime that you didn't do. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do the crime, but they accused you for it. Let's say they locked you in prison, because it's gonna happen. A lot of us are gonna be locked in prison. You're accusing you of doing this, being a terrorist, X, Y, Z, right? But we didn't do anything, right? So that's a perfect example, right? But the Most High is pleased by that because you endure it. You didn't buck up against it. You didn't fight back. You didn't do any of that. He's like, all right, cool. Just like Yahushai. Same thing Yahushai went through. Same thing the apostles went through, right? For what glory is it if when ye be buffeted for your faults? So the word buffeted. To strike with the fist or hand, cuff, box, slap. To strike, slap, punch, bite. Basically to fight. All right, and let's just go into the blue letter. Where were we? Here. Yeah, same thing.
Strong's G 2852. Calafizo. Calafizo.
Calafizo. To strike with the fist, give one a blow with the fist, to maltreat, treat with violence, and continue. So basically, if you read it again, for what glory is it when ye be basically hit, attacked for your faults, ye shall take it patiently, right? But if when ye do well and suffer for it, ye take it patiently, this is acceptable with Yahweh, right? Right? Because when that does happen, you do need to take it. You just have to take it. Because at the end of the day, it is acceptable to Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. That's why it says, but if when you do well and suffer for it, you take it patiently, this is acceptable with Yahweh, right? And then it goes and continues. For even hereunto where ye called, because Yahweh Shai also suffered for us, leaving us an example that ye should follow his steps, who did no sin. Right? Neither was guile found in his mouth. Right? Because Yahweh Shai, when he went through, he didn't get upset and fight back, and he didn't curse he probably did curse them out when they were being wicked. He rebuked them, but when he was going through that type of suffering, he didn't fight back. He just took it because he endured. Right. And also in verse 20, in the beginning, even when you do something wrong, right, and you get physically stricken by it, you still have to take it patiently. If anything, you're supposed to take that patiently. You're not supposed to be impatient because you fucked up. Right? You fucked up. So for example, let's say you're driving and you crashed. I don't know, for some reason you were drinking and driving, you crash into another man's car, he gets out of the car, pulls you out of his car and starts beating the shit out of you. Right? Excuse my French. But when that happens, it's not a glorified thing. It's not like you should take glory in the fact that, you're being stricken, you're being attacked for something you did wrong, right? That's why it says up here in verse 19, it says, for this is thankworthy if a man for conscience toward Yahweh endure grief, suffering wrongfully. Right? So suffering wrongfully, when you wrongfully suffer, when you didn't do anything, that is the Most High is pleased with that. But there's no glory in when you're being basically you're being attacked or you're being judged or punished for your faults, for something you did wrong, because that's his punishment, right? So don't take glory in that, right? That's why it continues, right? But at the same time, you are supposed to take it patiently because you fucked up, right? As it continues, it says, but if when ye do well and suffer for it, ye take it patiently, right? Right. So now we're going to go to we're going to go 1 Peter 3:18. Right? Because if you mess up, at the end of the day, you are supposed to take it patiently because you should understand that you messed up. But don't take glory in it because like don't think, oh yeah, I messed up. I'm being whatever. This is happening to me because I messed up. This is the same thing that happened to Yahushai. It's like, no, that's not the same thing to Yahushai, because Yahushai didn't sin. He didn't mess up. He didn't have any faults. Right? He didn't have any faults. So that's not the same thing. When you mess up, you should be ashamed. Right? You should be ashamed. You have to repent and think about what you did so you don't do it again. It's not a glorified thing. It's only when you do well and then you suffer. That's when that's acceptable to the Most High. That's when you can take some glory into that in that sense. Right? Yeah, Thwada Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. 1 Peter 3:18. For Yahushai also hath once suffered for sins, the just for the unjust, that he might bring us to Yahweh, being put to death in the flesh, but quickening by the Spirit. Right? That's glory. That's glory. He suffered for sins that were not even his. And he died at death, or he died in the flesh because of sins that were not his. Right? He suffered for the people that are being wicked because he was righteous. That's glory. He went through pain because he was righteous. You know? So like you never glorify, and when you fucked up, don't take glory into that. Still take it patiently, right? Because you messed up. So you shouldn't be impatient, especially when you messed up. You have to understand what you did, take it patiently, and just don't do it again. Learn from that experience and don't do it again. Be ashamed. You should be ashamed. That fear, that emotion of shame should make you ponder on what just happened, right? But right here, this is what righteous suffering is. This is what Yahushai did. Okay? So now we're going to go to Hebrews 2:9. Because a lot of people get confused. When they're suffering, they forgot why they're suffering, or they just don't know why they're suffering. They have no idea. So sometimes, like, if you don't know, you need to ask the Most High. Pray, ask him to reveal. Like, ask him, why is this happening to me? Why am I suffering? Why am I going through this? Right? Obviously, it's because you committed sins, right? But if you don't know exactly what it is, right, then ask. Right? Now, you should be at the point where when something bad happens, you should be able to know what you did. Because you should be that analytical and that scared of every single thought, every single conversation you have, every single action you make. You should be so aware of yourself that when you make a mistake. So there's gonna be there's gonna be repercussions for what you just did, right? And when you make a mistake, you ask for the Most High for forgiveness. You ask for Yahweh Hashem Yahushai to forgive you for that, right? And don't do it again. Try not to do it again, because you are in the flesh. You're gonna mess up, but you got to try not to do it again. You have to keep trying and trying and trying. Praying and praying and praying. Hebrews 2:9. But we see Yahushai, who was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he by the grace of Yahweh should taste death for every man. Right? So he did that. And you know why he got that glory and that honor is because he suffered. Right? He suffered for righteous reasons. Right? He even suffered wrongfully, in a sense. Because you want to look at it, it wasn't... he did go and he had to pay for his own sins, but the sins of Israel, like, he didn't do those things that Israel did. Right? He didn't actually physically do those things. Right? They did it. But he took their sins upon him, and he brought us back to the Most High. Right? And there is a deeper understanding of that, why he did that. But yeah, you know, that's too much food. What the apostles always say, too much meat. Don't want to choke. Right? Nonetheless, the point is that he suffered for righteous reasons, right? And that pleased the Most High, which is why he gave him everything he gave him. That's why he is who he is. So we're going to go to Philippians 2 and 7. It's the last one. Philippians 2 and 7. But made himself of no reputation and took upon him the form of a servant. So he made himself meek, right? And what does a servant do? They subject themselves to their master, right? Fully, and was made in the likeness of men. And being found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, right? Obedient unto death. And he humbled himself, even the death of the cross, right? Because it's just showing you the key to suffer. You want to suffer perfectly, why not learn from the person who did it perfectly, right? He humbled himself, first of all, right? And became obedient to the Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. He fully gave himself to the Most High, to his Father. He was literally in his Father's hands. Whatever you tell me to do, whatever you tell me to do, I'll do it. Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. You know? And once he did that, obviously, he's not going to get upset through the things he goes through, because he subjected himself to the Most High. So the Most High is the one that's guiding his steps. All right, so this is what you have to do. You have to do this. It's like, really? You have to go through this? Yep. Okay, that's it. Go. And he does it, you know? It's like in the army. When you have your commanding general, when he tells you to do something, it's sir, yes, sir. It's not, oh, I don't think I want to do that. Oh, that looks painful. That looks like it's gonna hurt. That's so boring. No, it's sir, yes, sir. And you go and do it. Right? Because this is an army. This is a spiritual army. Okay? And he was the if you want to say it as a soldier, he was a perfect soldier. You know? Which is why he's a commander on the right-hand side of Yahweh. He made it to that level. He's the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And being, I read that. Wherefore Yahweh also hath highly exalted him and given him a name which is above every name. Yeah. That at the name of Yahweh Shai, every knee should bow, of things in heaven and things in earth and things under the earth. And that every tongue should confess that Yahweh Shai HaMashiach is Lord, the glory of Yahweh the Father. Wherefore, my beloved, as ye have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. That's what you're supposed to do. You know? You're supposed to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. Right? For it is Yahweh which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. Right? And for you to do it perfectly, in perfect manner, you need to subject yourself to him 100%. Right? You have to, I always say this, you have to obtain the skill of being comfortable, right? Being comfortable being under Slakia. It's basically it's the skill of being comfortable when you're uncomfortable. There you go. That's how I was trying to phrase it. So you gain the skill of when you're uncomfortable, you're comfortable being uncomfortable. So you're comfortable to endure. You're comfortable to bear. You're comfortable to suffer. But to do that, you have to fully subject yourself to what you're doing, to this ministry. You have to fully subject yourself to it. And it's not easy. Obviously, we're in the flesh. So it's easier said than done. But that's the only way to do it. Because that's what Yahweh Shai did. Right? because you're getting points. You're getting points on everything. You're getting tested on everything. Right? Everything's a test. Everything you do, everything's a test. So the people that can that are more comfortable suffering, have obtained that skill, they're gonna obtain more points. It just makes more sense. It just makes sense. Doesn't mean that person's better than the other, but I mean there are levels in the army, there's levels in sports, some people are just higher than others, right? You have the vets, you have the rookies. And even the truth, there's levels to that. Because the more you learn how to suffer and get comfortable in it, the Most High is going to reveal more things to you because it pleases him when you suffer for righteous reasons. Even when you're suffering wrongfully, when you're being accused of something you didn't do. Right? Wow. I was about to say that. For it is Yahweh which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. Do all things without murmurings and disputings. Yeah, so when things happen, don't like mumble and start arguing with the person. You want to ask a question. Okay, ask a question why you're doing this so you know why you're doing this, but then they explain it, then go do it. Don't get angry. That ye may be blameless and harmless, the sons of Yahweh without rebuke in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation. Right? Because if you do that, if you obtain that skill, you don't, dispute with people when they tell you to do things, or when you're suffering, you don't talk back. You just take it like a good soldier, right? Because that's what the 2/3 are doing. That's what they do. They don't want to suffer. They don't want to. They're not working their salvation with fear and trembling. They're not listening to the Most High, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Right? They're doing the total opposite of that. So if you can do that, it says that you may be blameless. It says maybe that ye may be blameless and harmless, the sons of Yahweh without rebuke, in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, among whom ye shine as lights in the world, holding forth the word of life, that I may rejoice in the day of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, that I have not run in vain, neither labored in vain. Because you don't want this marathon run that you're on right now, to be all for nothing. Just because you couldn't endure, you couldn't suffer long enough, because you weren't patient. Right? You're being impatient because you got emotional, or because you wanted things your way. There's nothing wrong for asking for stuff, but I mean to get to the point to ask for things, you would have to know why you're suffering. You have to understand that and know why you're suffering. Which is like you have to humble yourself into the most Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, so he will reveal that information to you. Because if you don't, then you're not gonna you'll fall out. Because you're not gonna know why you're suffering, and eventually you're gonna get in your emotions, and you're like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. And something might happen, you might fall out. Just because of the fact that you just didn't want to suffer. Right? Because that's what the 2/3 are doing. They don't want to suffer. Because for them to come back to Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, they have to suffer because they were wicked. Right? They still have to pay for what they did. Right? You still have to pay for what you did. So the Most High is going to put you through it. Just like in the army. You first get in the army, they put you through the wire, so to speak. They got to brainwash you, so to speak. Right? So you're going to go through it. They're going to treat you like shit at first. And then you can work your way back up, just like with the Most High. You're wicked before, so okay. But he still has his arms stretched out. So he brings you back in. Okay, now you have to earn back his trust. Right? So you're going to stay on the bottom. You have to work your way back up with him. Right? So holding forth the word of life, that I may rejoice in the day of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, that I have not run in vain, neither labored in vain. Yea, and if I offered upon the sacrifice and service of your faith, I joy. Let me read that again. Yea, and if I be offered upon the sacrifice and service of your faith, I joy and rejoice with you all. Right? And if you happen that you have to die, And it's great because Yahweh Shai died. And look what he got. He died in the ministry. He died doing the right thing in righteousness. You know? To follow and doing the truth. And look what he got. So yeah, okay, if that has happened, then so be it. But that comes to the obtaining the skill of being comfortable while you're uncomfortable. Right? Suffering, being comfortable with suffering. And to be comfortable suffering, you have to understand why you're suffering, or you're not going to want to do it. Right. So, anyways, that's on that. The point has been made. Like, I hope this lesson was edifying to the hopeful elect. I'd like to close out by saying, Kal Halal Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rekah Kadash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone and to the hopeful elect, pushing his word in truth and sincerity across the four corners of the earth. Death and destruction to his wicked kingdom, and the 2/3 as well. Kwam Yasharallah, Abad Babal, Shalom.